What's up, my friends? Jordan Bates here. I'm in Gdansk, Poland, and I'm feeling really good today. Really starting to feel really tapped in again after a period of feeling a bit suppressed or stifled. It feels like I've managed to let go of some things, and thus the kind of energy and inspiration and flow of everything is I'm more aligned with that now, and that's more able to kind of flow through me and provide me with vitality and energy and inspiration. um, and I'm really thankful for that. I feel really grateful to be alive right now. um, and I have to thank David Hawkins for a lot for how I'm feeling right now. I recently discovered the work of the late Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote a book called Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender, which I finished recently, and now I'm reading another book by him called Power versus Force. And honestly, I'm finding I'm finding this guy's work to be absolutely illuminating on a number of levels. For those who are especially skeptically minded, it might be it's I kind of have to preface talking about David Hawkins by noting that I think a lot of people would read his work and feel like, oh, this is too woo woo or pseudosciency for me. But I think that to do that is to really miss the forest for the trees. If everything you're reading, you're just looking for anything that might be a bit woo or pseudosciency, and then on the basis of that, you're going to dismiss an entire work or an entire oeuvre. I don't know how to say that word. An entire body of work of a particular thinker or artist or philosopher or spiritual teacher. I think that's really, really a shame and sort of nearsighted and myopic, because it's often the case that even the greatest thinkers and teachers and philosophers have some ideas that are a bit out there, or we disagree with, or whatever. And it's really important, I think, to learn how to read, to take what is useful and resonant, like just use your own discernment to see, like, I can determine what is useful and resonant in this for me, and I can let go of the rest, and I can approach this with a beginner's mind, so that I'm not just simply knee-jerkingly dismissing an entire work at the first sign of something that falls outside of my map of what I consider to be, my kind of epistemic boundaries, what I consider to be valid ways of obtaining knowledge. So I could see some people being turned off to David Hawkins' work because of that, but I would strongly urge you to approach his work with a beginner's mind, just wide open. Read the book Letting Go, I think, is an amazing place to start. And I really think anyone in the world, if you read this book with a beginner's mind, you'll find a tremendous amount of wisdom and extraordinarily useful cleansing, like deep cleaning, like vacuum the gunk off your soul and your bones, and remove the blockages to love and peace and joy, and just the kind of light that wants to radiate through us, but which we kind of stifle and suppress by holding on to kind of like life denying destructive emotions like shame and guilt and anger and excessive pride and judgment, jealousy, things like this. David Hawkins really illuminates how to let go of these kind of more base emotions, so that the underlying energy beneath those things, which arguably is kind of in our core at all times, it just gets profoundly covered up. It's like the window gets smudged with mud and the light can't get through. But as you kind of peel away the mud, peel back the layers, melt and release these blockages and these lower emotions, the light that's already there, the light and love within us, starts to radiate out of us in the way that only we can kind of refract it. We're all like unique prisms that can refract this light to create patterns that only we can create. But it is this same kind of fundamental light or love or consciousness or whatever you want to call it that you kind of you get down to when you peel back enough of the layers of ego and fear and persona and conditioning and indoctrination, and let go of these lower emotions. You start to just tap into this kind of wellspring of love and peace and light and joy, and it's a process that really, it gradually you find that actually the mind itself, you need to let go of over-attachment to the thinking mind and the monkey mind, trying to heal yourself or liberate yourself. At a certain point, I mean, arguably, from the beginning, the mind is kind of an obstacle. The mind is an extraordinarily useful tool in certain contexts for problem solving or reasoning or certain things like that. But eventually you begin to realize that the mind itself actually needs to be transcended. And I've begun to realize that the ultimate form of mind refinement is really mind transcendence, when you realize that what you are is actually something much greater and more expansive than the narrow monkey mind, and that if you're over-identified with the mind, it's often the most perfect kind of torture chamber. Whereas when you start to tap into this more expansive reality of being kind of inseparable from everything that exists and inseparable from this fundamental kind of love and consciousness that seems to permeate reality on some level, you begin to be able to see the monkey mind as just one kind of narrow facet of your biological organism, and you begin to take the stance of the witness of your field of awareness, and you see the mind and its kind of peculiar, funny little patterns and behaviors as this kind of endearing, like little immature part of you that's just going through these sort of neurotic motions, and you're able to just kind of see that happening, be the observer, the witness, without identifying with it, and you can just gently kind of have compassion for yourself and for your mind's particular activity, and you can just, at any given moment, rather than getting sucked into the drama your mind wants to create, because it just wants to go into these endless looping thought patterns that blow up any problem to 1,000 times its actual size, instead of getting sucked into that melodrama and being over-identified with that, you start to become able to simply see that the mind's beginning to spin about something, have compassion for yourself. You start to realize that the mind is actually endlessly trying to rationalize the presence of a feeling. So when the mind is going crazy about something, it's because there's some feeling beneath it that you don't want to deal with. And so you actually start to learn to drop the narrative and like cut off the train of thought and just go down to the level of feeling and emotion and just feel whatever you're feeling. And this is kind of the letting go technique that David Hawkins discusses. A lot of these ideas I'm talking about come from David Hawkins and just resonated so deeply with me, and I'm already finding rather profound results from applying this technique. But you simply drop the narrative, go down to the level of feeling and emotion, and you just allow whatever is there to come up. A good kind of mantra to remember is, let it come, let it be, let it go. You pretty much just allow whatever is there to be there, and you just surrender to it, and you don't resist it, you don't try to modify it at all. You simply are willing to acknowledge, yes, there is fear. Yes, there is resistance, there is anxiety, there is anger, there is jealousy. And you just acknowledge it, and instead of running from it or trying to change it or trying to push it away in some closet, you just let it be there. And as soon as you start to do that, as soon as you really surrender to it, it starts to actually transmute into something gentler, and the energy, the kind of energetic or emotional reservoir behind the emotion begins to deplete, and you start to actually let out the suppressed content that's behind that emotion. And as you drain that reservoir, you'll notice that entire kind of thought spirals and thought programs that were all originating from that one feeling will begin to lose their power. They won't recur as often, they'll become less enticing, you'll get sucked into them less, and you'll become increasingly able to just not identify with them and just view them as the peculiar, neurotic movements of the monkey mind, and you'll get in the habit of just going back to the level of feeling, dropping the narrative, seeing what the sensory data is, allowing it to be what it is, allowing it to run its course, knowing that every feeling is perfectly okay. It's never a problem to feel any particular way. We all have all sorts of feelings as human beings, and when we stop resisting that and we just realize that it's okay to have our feelings and feel our feelings, and we stop fighting them and resisting them, they can be allowed to simply come up, run their course, and deplete the reservoir behind them. And this is what really heals us and allows us to keep the energy kind of flowing through our system, rather than like bottling it up and blocking it off, which causes it to fester and become a kind of poison, corroding us from within. So, yeah, that's really the essence of the letting go technique, and yeah, it seems that as we're able to do this more and more, we just begin to experience increasing states of kind of flow and trust and love and connectedness and joy. We identify less with the narrow monkey mind, with the ego, with our narrow kind of labels and identities as human beings, and we begin to just kind of fluidly and kind of non-dually move through the world, seeing that we're an inseparable piece of the process of nature, and we're able to just kind of melt into that flow of everything and trust that flow of everything. And when you do that, that's when things just begin to really align and really click into place, basically. I'm starting to see this more and more over the last year or so in my life, how it really does seem to be the case that through whatever mechanism, whether it's some unconscious confirmation bias, self-fulfilling prophecy type of loop, or whether it's something more mystical like the law of attraction, it seems that whatever your state of being is with which you're moving through the world, it's going to tend to magnetize people and situations that mirror kind of your state of being. If you're walking around in a state of love and peace and joy, you're going to find a lot of loving, peaceful, joyful people and situations. And if you're carrying around a kind of expansive inner sense of self and abundance, you're going to magnetize prosperity and abundance into your life, and opportunities. Whereas if you're carrying around this kind of sense of inner smallness and resentment, and on some level you unconsciously believe that you kind of suck and you're not enough and you're not worthy, and life is kind of out to get you, then that's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're going to magnetize kind of impoverished situations and other resentful people and anger permeated situations, and you're going to never have enough, whether you're actually in poverty or whether you're just actually surrounded by material things but feeling totally empty inside, you're going to magnetize a subjective situation, a subjectively experienced kind of situation that mirrors your true internal state. And so that's related to what has been one of the most kind of profound paradigm shifts for me in reading Letting Go. He talks about how so many people are so fixated on the specific actions they're taking in the world. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What should I do to be a good person or help the world or leave a legacy or whatever it is? But Hawkins points out that as you kind of do more of this work and tap into these more expansive states and remove these blockages, you start to realize that a better question is, what am I being? What is my state of being? What is my quality of conscious experience? Am I stewing in resentment, or am I radiating love and peace and joy? Because if you're stewing in resentment and unkindness and kind of ill will, it doesn't matter what actions you take in the world. Those actions are going to be permeated with the energy that you're bringing to them, and they won't ultimately have a particularly positive effect, even if they're ostensibly positive actions. Your resentment is going to like corrupt everything you do. You often see this with like activists. Ostensibly they're trying to take action to save the environment or to promote some positive social change, but they're so deeply stewing in resentment that the energy of resentment permeates everything they do and their entire kind of the energy field around their entire project, and they end up causing a lot of polarization and division and conflict, and they're kind of like spraying resentment on everyone around them, and their message, instead of being rooted in love, ends up being rooted in like finger pointing and victim blaming, or not victim blaming, but like finger pointing and blaming and saying this person's at fault, and kind of viewing themselves as a victim and not taking responsibility and not coming from an energy of love and forgiveness. Whereas if you peel back these blockages and layers and you let go of the resentment and the blockages to love and peace, and you're actually becoming love and kind of radiating unconditional acceptance, love, peace, forgiveness, kindness, the closer you move to that, the more it's going to become the case that you don't even have to really become concerned with the specific actions you're taking, because the actions are all going to flow organically from this center, from this state of being love and kindness. And when the actions organically flow from that place, they're inevitably, automatically going to be permeated with that energy of love and peace and kindness and forgiveness. And as such, basically everything you do and everywhere you go, you're able to be a healing presence for every person and every situation that you come in contact with, more or less. And so yeah, it's kind of I find it to be an astounding and extraordinarily liberating paradigm shift to realize that I don't even have to really worry about the specific actions I'm taking. The most important thing is for me to simply look at my state of being and focus on that and think about, where does my work still lie? What do I still need to let go of? What am I attached to? Where am I still holding on to resentment or grief or jealousy or judgment? How can I let these things go more and more so that I can get down to this very pure kind of light just coming through me, and this this energy of just love and forgiveness, so I can practice a more unconditional level of forgiveness and kindness, and just knowing that when I do that, that when the more I'm able to do that, the more my actions are going to flow organically from that place, and so they will be aligned and they will be permeated with the healing energy of love and forgiveness. And as I attain that state of being, it's just going to attract, like magnetize, basically everything that I might want in terms of, you know, just like financial freedom and freedom in various forms, and people and situations and opportunities that my heart desires. I've really seen how that works, and I can really say that when you do this work and you get down to this level of very pure intention, and you're acting with pure intention in pursuit and following kind of your highest excitement, what truly excites you and you're intrinsically motivated to do, and you're doing that with pure intention and courage, reality has a way of kind of like meeting you halfway and like stepping towards you. It's like Terence McKenna said, nature loves courage, or Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there were only walls. These guys were pointing at this type of thing of when you get down to this level of intrinsic motivation, what you're intrinsically motivated to do, because it just brings you bliss and joy and enlivens you and allows you to radiate love and kindness. When you do that and you walk that path and you move in that direction, things flow toward you. Your external situation just begins to mirror your internal state. And so recognizing that and realizing that more and more and trusting that more and more is becoming profoundly liberating for me, because it really simplifies things to realize all I really have to worry about, all I really have to do in life is basically focus on my internal state of being first and foremost. All I really have to do is look at what is my quality of consciousness, what is my state of being, what are the remaining blockages that I need to melt away and let go of to more fully embody kind of the light and love that wants to flow through me. And the more I'm able to do that, the more I can really trust that things are just going to flow and coincide and coalesce in this synchronistically kind of auspicious and almost divinely orchestrated way, because it's almost as if, again, you just kind of, it seems that the cosmos itself functions according to this kind of law by which we somehow, our state of being basically attracts a reality around us that mirrors that state of being. So anyway, I'm finding these realizations to be extraordinarily powerful, and I'm seeing more and more evidence that this is really true in the last year or so. And as I'm reading David Hawkins' work, there's a way in which a lot of the words he's saying are resonating on such a deep level where my internal kind of like soul level intuitive compass that transcends the kind of linear parsing of the rational mind just simply like vibrates with joy and resonance when I'm reading some of these words, and I get a very strong intuitive sense that I'm kind of downloading spiritual truth. And over the years I've gradually come to take that sense, to treat that sense with reverence, and really actually I think my internal kind of soul level intuitive compass and my firsthand experience has become my most valued indicator of truth in life. Experiential firsthand truth. You really can trust your experience. You don't have to outsource truth finding to so-called authorities and experts, and you don't have to have like a rational, logical, like 10-page long proof for something you believe. And on that note, on the level of mind, I still endeavor to remain non-dogmatic in everything that I in my kind of model of reality. I don't have any interest in taking anything I'm saying and elevating it to the status of absolute truth or final conclusions. I'm happy to just keep it as my current truth and my current models, and operate within that paradigm, because I think dogma and attempting to turn things into absolute truth and final answers has been a faulty, utterly destructive paradigm throughout human history. It's led to enormous violence, and still today, the majority of kind of the polarization and divisive conflict that we see between people in politics and on the internet and between groups, and still to some extent on the level of war and violence, is largely caused by groups of human beings having overconfidence in their particular beliefs and becoming dogmatic about their beliefs and trying to say, we're certain that it's this way and that you should act this way, and so whoever is not thinking and acting this way, they're the bad guys, and we're gonna flame them and yell at them and throw mud at them, and maybe we'll shoot them. This is the meta pattern that has plagued human history. And so I'm not interested in dogmatizing anything that I talk about ever. In the tradition of Terence McKenna and Robert Anton Wilson, I endeavor to remain non-dogmatic and to believe nothing absolutely. And yet, as I test out different ways of knowing, different ways of understanding and refining my models of reality, I've found that when I listen to my intuition and my deep soul level internal compass, and I use that as a really fundamental routing mechanism, and I endeavor to test and kind of follow the things that are suggested to me by that kind of internal guidance system that transcends rational linear logic, it seems that the results that produces in my life, and the release of stress and anxiety, and the ability to just kind of seemingly synchronize with the river of life and align with the flow of being, and kind of trust the universe, let go and let flow, or let go and let God. When I'm able to do that, and I'm trusting my internal intuition, the results have just been far surpassing just my quality of life, and quality of internal experience is just significantly greater than the days when I used to try to think my way into solutions to everything, and think my way through every so-called problem, and over-identify with the monkey mind. And so I'm kind of experientially validating a lot of these principles for myself, and I would highly recommend that you endeavor to do the same if you feel called to do so, or you can do whatever you like, because do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So at the end of the day, do your thing, but hopefully there's been something useful in here for you. Hopefully this is inspiration to test things out for yourself, take ideas from this and from David Hawkins' work that seem useful and resonant, and attempt to put them into practice and see what happens. Attempt to peel back the layers and let go of these more superficial layers of the self and these more base emotions, and see what happens. See what happens if you start to feel this increased lightness and love and joy, and if you start to attract more of that to yourself. You can just test it, which is what we should all do all the time. I am totally very deeply rooted in the paradigm that says, if at all possible, experientially validate your assumptions or hypotheses or your suspicions about the world. So anyway, I hope that this rather lengthy video has given you something useful, and on that note, I am going to say peace out. David Hawkins, thank you, David Hawkins, for your beautiful work, and thank you, dear listener, for being a wonderful instantiation of spirit and nature and of humanity. Keep doing your thing. Keep getting out of bed each morning. It gets better. I mean, it's life. Life is always lifey. It has its ups and downs and its challenges and its setbacks, but increasingly you can reach a place where you're trusting the undulations and you're allowing them, and you're just kind of not resisting whatever is happening. It's astonishing how much we suffer purely because we're resisting whatever is happening. Even if it is an ostensibly painful thing, if we completely surrender to it, the suffering of it is arguably almost completely removed. So keep that in mind. Resist nothing is really just like the core nugget, the greatest wisdom I think I've ever found in life. And yeah, that's really what it is. So yeah, on that note, good luck. I love you. Take care. And I will talk to you later.